Thanks, Stephanie, for joining us in the SAINTCON hallway. It's a pleasure. I actually don't know your InfoSec origin story. I've heard some
Ooh,
things about the DEF CON Black Badge. I don't know if that's the catalyst or what, but I think that's a good place to start. The fact that I don't even know, I bet there's a lot of people who don't know. So if you're
yeah.
willing to share with us, what's your origin story or your Spider-Man origin story into InfoSec?
Ooh. So pretty much what you said, with the DEF CON Black Badge, but kind of long answer. Background is in both cells and special effects makeup artistry, which are not InfoSec related. But my husband, who you are well familiar with,
JC Soka.
wanted to go to DEF CON. Yep, shut up. Wanted to go to DEF CON 1 year, and this was DEF CON 18, 19. I think it was 19. And so his first year, he'd wanted to go to for years, but finally he was going, he's like, do you want to come? I was like, Vegas? Yes, I will go to Vegas. And so he gets me a badge. I'm just like, what am I going to do with this? Because I just wanted to hang out by the pool and drink. And so he drags me into a talk completely like 100% over my head. But I got pretty restless, so I wandered around DEF CON and I found the lockpick village. That was the first thing I found on my own. I'm like, this is kind of interesting. Like, it didn't add up to me. Like, why are people just lockpicking? And so I walk in, and someone immediately introduces themselves to me. And I wish to this day, like, I knew who it was so I can thank them. So if by any weird chance someone's listening to this and they remember my face and like, hey, DEF CON 19, like I taught you how to lockpick, please like DM me or something. But I walked in and they sat me down and they walked me through everything, all the picks, all the locks. I picked my first lock and I got out of handcuffs, got to use shims. I was like, this is so cool. Like I had so much fun. But it's funny to see someone when they pick their first lock, like what goes through their mind, because it's like, cool, I picked this padlock. Oh, I could pick other locks. Oh, my house.
Yeah.
Oh, everything that I keep protected in my life with a lock. So it's kind of terrifying.
Yeah.
So I kind of had that moment. So I was like, oh shit, okay. And so I then wandered and I found the social engineering village, and I'd never heard the term social engineering before. And when I walk in, they're in the middle of doing a call. And it took me a second to really figure out what was going on because, there's just a person in a booth
Right.
and with a live caller. And once like I started reading like the audience, like when they would get information, everybody was like, getting excited. And so I finally figured out what was going on, and they kind of did like a little debrief after the call. And I remember going up to the organizer and said, this is amazing. Like I was made for this. Like I know I could do this kind of thing. Like, is this even a job? Like, tell me everything. And so he explained it, gave me book recommendations, and I went back home and I got all those books. I found more books. I would practice eliciting password reset questions from random strangers at the park when I would take my kids or at the mall. And like I really just latched onto it from there. So I went back and I competed 3 years in a row at the DEF CON Social Engineering Capture the Flag, or the SECTF. And I won on my third year. So that kind of what got the ball rolling into my career. So not your typical, I was in IT 10 years type story at all.
And you're winning. What was your? Again, I just know secondhand. People have told me. What was your way of you pulled that off when you won your black badge? You did something a little unique.
A little bit. So the year I won technically was the only year that they've done partners. So it was me and another person. But I have a unique story there. So the partner I was assigned didn't help with the report. And on the morning of our call that was scheduled at DEF CON, I got a text like, hey, like, I can't make it. And everyone had been working with their partners for months.
Right.
So I had like put together like a call script, like, I open up the conversation this way, you do this, we're going after these flags. Like I put so much into it because I was also terrified that, it there was lack of working with someone. And so I thought that I was screwed and I wasn't going to be able to like do the calls because the whole premise was working with someone else. And so JC's friend Steve was in the room. I'm like, hey, buddy, you want to do some calls with me? So he agreed, and I'm so thankful for that. And I pretty much like handed him the script. I'm like, this is what we're doing. This is who we're calling. And the way that our pretext worked, because you also got extra points every time you'd like transfer the call between teammates. So I would open up the call and I said, I was there to do, we were calling to do an audit, and I would transfer them to someone who was more technical for the technical questions. Because unfortunately, in society's eyes, that's more of a male role typically. But it worked because I transferred him. He got all the information. Then he transferred it back to me, and I confirmed all the information. So we were able to score double points.
Nice.
Yep. So we were able to kind of double dip that way. So that's how the year that I won, that's how the calls went.
Wow. I mean, we've all been there where we had somebody flake on a project, but usually it goes into a burning dumpster fire of a mess.
Yes.
Not turns into a black badge.
Right. Yeah, I got lucky.
Right. That's awesome. What if I'm going to pivot real fast. If somebody wanted to, I'm sure you asked this a lot, so I'm just going to ask you, if somebody wanted to get into SE, social engineering, where do you point them, right? So somebody gave you some books and some other scripts. What do you, based on that and the knowledge you gained since then, what do you tell people? Hey, I want to do what you do. How do they start?
So I get that question all the time, and it's kind of hard to answer because it's definitely a rare job to have like strictly social engineering. So I have a couple of recommendations. The first one is get into pen testing, right? Get a junior pen testing job, because that knowledge of just security in general and working with computers and things like that will take you so far. So get that base knowledge, and it also gets your foot in the door at a company that does those services that probably also does social engineering as well. So you're able to kind of pivot from that in an established role. But actually learning, like knowing how to be a social engineer, definitely a good handful of books. But one of the biggest things I like to tell people is print out a list of password reset questions. So mother's maiden name, street you grew up on, and go to them all. Go somewhere and talk to people and try to get those pieces of information without it being awkward. And you will learn so much, because you're gonna fail, right? Everyone fails. I still fail to this day. But when you fail, you figure out what works and what doesn't work, and then you're able to like adjust your strategy about how you approach people or different words you say. And so I think between those things, those are like the biggest. So really get your foot in the door in security in general, because it's extremely hard. It's not impossible, but it's extremely hard to get hired as a dedicated social engineer. But then practice, right?
Right. So your neighbors and the ones at the local park are like, Stephanie, you already have my passwords.
Yeah.
Quit asking me.
Just go away.
My mother's DOB. Like, what do you? Enough of this. So you're saying by the end of this, I've probably already given you my credentials.
I got them. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's right. But I did update the one, so I'll make sure I get you that one. I'll get with that one.
Perfect.
What was the first year you did SAINTCON?
That's a good question. So I won. So we won our SAINTCON. I'm going to work backwards. We won our SAINTCON black badge. I can't talk today, in 2017. So I was 2016. I want to say it was 2015, maybe 14, but 15 for sure.
Was it in Weber or somewhere else?
Yep, Weber.
Okay, perfect. And from that year, so we're now talking half a decade.
Yeah.
What's your favorite memory of SAINTCON off the top of your head? Not counting you guys copying people's fingerprints and winning the vault challenge.
But that's it. That's my favorite memory.
Okay, fine. Go ahead. Tell it.
Okay. So 2017, a competition was put on at SAINTCON called the Vault, which is still going on. And
which, by the way, is being mostly ran by you guys out of like pure love, because it's a lot of work. But
yeah, anyway. Definitely like JC, Kyle, Davis, a good handful of people's put so much love into that. So it's fun to see like where it's progressing and just changing. But so it's a competition called the Vault, and it's a physical security competition that pretty much changes yearly. So the year that we won, Lean ran it. I'm pretty sure he was the one that ran it that year.
Yep.
So there's a handful of just a handful of physical security things. So on the outside, you had lock picking, you had RFID, badge cloning, and then when you get in, I think there was an alarm that year. there was motion, or sorry, not motion, like some type of detectors. I can't remember what they were now. But then the big thing at the end was there was this biometric safe, and you had to open it up with a fingerprint. Like you couldn't do any lock picking because Lean doesn't like, to make things easy for people. So the lock picking part, or not, I can't talk today. Oh my goodness. The biometric part, there we go, was absolutely the hardest part. And so that one, I kind of just assigned myself to, like, Davis and JC, they were my other two mates that year. They kicked ass at everything else, but I'm like, we got to figure this part out. And so I remember going back and trying everything, like, how do you lift a fingerprint? So I was like Googling everything. I tried charcoal, I tried makeup, I tried glue, latex, everything. And
this whole time, Kevin wants to know why I've handed him the 8th glass. Can you drink this?
Yep. And so I was lucky enough that I actually had a RFID lab, like, already set up, like a kind of a little modular one, and it had like a fingerprint in it. So I was able to kind of test and do some proof of concepts, which everything was failing. And I spent, like, I didn't sleep. Like, I did not go to bed. I was trying everything. And I think the next morning, before we were supposed to leave to kind of do our final run, it hit me like, special effects makeup, I make molds, right? And I make different kinds of prosthetics. I'm like, why can't I make a fake finger? And so I went and I pulled out my old kit and I made like a gelatin mold of a finger. So what I did was I took hot glue and I stuck my finger in it, so I was able to get a print. So that's now the negative print. And then I filled it with like my gelatin solution and made that. And so I had a positive print and it worked. And I was in awe that it actually worked. Like, that feeling when you spend so long trying to figure something out and it's so frustrating, and then the second it works, it's just like, oh, this was so worth all of the pain and lack of sleep and everything. That was me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I chatted with him not too long ago, and he was saying that he essentially put together a challenge he didn't think anybody would win.
Yep.
And you guys come in like, oh, I have previous experience doing makeup and prosthetics, and I'm going to apply that to an InfoSec topic and break into the vault. Yeah, that's great.
It was fun. It was a good one.
How many wigs do you have?
Oh God, I don't know. Not as many as you probably think. Probably at least a dozen, at least.
that's probably about.
Is that a lot?
That's about what I would have thought. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't have very many, but
yeah.
What about you? What about uniforms? I do have a lot of uniforms.
Yeah. You don't you go to like, not consignment, but like
so in Salt Lake, NPS.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if you know where that is, but the two go-to jams for uniforms in Salt Lake is NPS, which is like damaged stuff, but they have uniforms that just get, I don't know, bad stitching or somebody didn't buy it.
Yeah.
And then Vegas thrift shops.
Vegas, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
Vegas thrift shops are game on because their turnover is so high in those industries that they're just loaded. So
all of them.
Whenever we're back into DEF CON Black Hat, and you steal away from the strip, go to the Vegas thrift shops and uniforms up the wazoo.
Yeah.
Black Hat, I was wearing a full-on security guard uniform and walking people around, and we got in trouble for jumping a barrier. And they're like, what are you guys doing? Like 3 security guards came up, and I was like, I'm escorting these guys.
Yeah. And
they're like, oh, okay. Because I was wearing a security guard uniform. And then some guy was chatting with me like he wanted to go work for that company and not his. And I was like, oh, I just got to apply. Like, he's like, it's just better, right? You guys get benefits. I'm like, yeah, benefits.
Mm-hmm. Sure do.
But do you have a lot of uniforms too?
I have a decent amount of uniforms. I have more of, I think the thing that I have the most of are badges and business cards. Those are like, that's my huge amount of, or most volume. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have that many uniforms, but I did just get like, I guess it's been a little while, but like an embroidery machine.
Game on.
Embroidery. Yeah. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about that.
Now you're just buying polos.
Yeah. Yep. Well, eBay is an amazing place. I have like every major vendor polo. So I guess when you say uniform, I think of like full blown like security guard, like you said, but I have a lot of
polos
different logo polos. Yeah. Okay. Then I have a decent amount then.
Right.
Yeah.
My go-to, I'm not going to name names, but a very large ISP here in Utah and the rest of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
That was always kind of my go-to. ISP
Yeah.
with a metal clipboard and act like I don't care.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they don't.
That's funny because a lot of people, when I hear stories when they do physical security assessments and stuff, they always act like they talk about acting super friendly and stuff. I'm like, yeah, but if you're in that kind of a role, like the one you just mentioned, those people are like grouchy. They just want to do their job and get out.
Yep.
So why would you act friendly? Like that's a red flag.
Few times I got shut down trying to get to their server room where their modem's at, right, for their ISP.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, dude, I don't care. Like, we'll come back next week. I don't care.
Yeah.
You're the one dropping packets. So if you want it fixed, let me in there. If you don't, call back in. They'll send somebody else in a week. And then they're like they let you in because they don't want the internet down either.
Right. Yeah.
But if you act like it's not urgent for me to get in there, I literally could care less. I'll check this box and go to the next customer. They're like, all right, fine. But
it's
one
all
guy,
about method acting.
Yeah, I was gonna say one guy they still wouldn't let me in, but they were willing to take the thumb drive and go plug it in. So that's a
win.
Too. Yeah, that's a win. So, perfect. Do you do reveals? Like, is it ever like in the middle of an engagement and you're like, I am the president of the company?
I don't now. I mean, I'm going to because it sounds fun.
I'm just picturing you. I saw you like your televised interview, and you were in the middle of the interview, and you're like, "I'm the president of the company," you know, like as if you're an undercover boss type of thing. But I don't know. Have you ever been in an interview? Like, has anybody ever pinned you down to a place where your get out of jail free card had to get used, and you've had to been like, "No, like I'm supposed to be here," or your lying just gets you everywhere you need to go?
No, I've definitely been stopped. I've only had to use my get out of jail free card once. So I got pretty lucky, but unfortunately it was with cops involved. So yeah.
Not in Texas district courthouses. Okay, good.
No. I have not been mixed up with those things. But the one time that I had to use it and there's two cops, the cops' reactions were my absolute favorite. Like one cop was like questioning me, like he's like, this doesn't make sense, this sounds fake, like why would a company do this for a living? And then the other cop was like, this is amazing, like I want to do this for work, like are you hiring? So it was really funny to see the two different responses.
Yeah, I suspect you have footage of this because I think you record all these.
No, not for this one.
Oh, I was gonna say
somewhere
off the record. I want to see that.
Yeah, but we have that's one of our questions we ask clients is, can we record ahead of time? And a good handful say no.
Gotcha.
Which sucks, but
after a little serious, but after the Texas one, did you guys change your contracts a little bit?
That's a great question. We definitely did a very, very thorough review of them. But for the most part, we were pretty safe. It's kind of nice to see where other people kind of, have issues, so you can make it a little bit.
Yeah. Now you're crossing off anywhere where it's like that's federally owned versus state owned.
Yeah. You need
a clear scope of who the freak owns that, and we'll yeah. I mean, it would be dumb not to go check that at that point, right?
Yeah.
Nobody wants anybody in jail while government fight over who owns what. That's not cool.
Yeah.
Right.
So one of the things, and this is unrelated, but for physical assessments, we stopped doing physical assessments on Fridays. Because if for some reason you get locked up and nobody's answering, I'm not going to be stuck there over the weekend. No, thank you.
Holidays too, right? You got to stay away from holidays. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I always thought my wife when I was young, she's like, well, you're gonna end up in jail for what you do, even on the digital side, let alone the phys side. Is this legal? Like, are you gonna end up in jail? And I'm like, no, it's fine. And then the moment you have get out of jail free cards, you're like, and then that happens, and I'm like, those guys, their wife's like, I thought you said that this was legal.
You lied to me.
Yeah. Why would you be in jail if this was legal?
Yep.
No, it's just government bureaucracy, fighting over stuff.
Well,
all right. What would you say your biggest win has been that you could share? Maybe you can give us some metadata of. That's just like maybe your favorite engagement where you just, or maybe you want to do the opposite. What's your biggest failure? Some people like to share those, but either or.
Yeah. Okay, I have one that's not either. It's not necessarily neither, but it's the one where I have felt like a monster. And I feel like my mouth is funky. I just got aligners and I'm still getting used to it. So I feel like, and it's really So I'm sorry. But I have a story. It's not necessarily a successful one or a failure. But the client was, they were in the financial space. And yeah. And they had multiple offices. And one of the partners wanted to go and move, to the middle of nowhere. He wanted to move away from the city. So he opened up his own little office, and they had been like warning him, like, you need to make sure everything's secure and follow all of our policies, because apparently this person was not following policies. So we were hired, and I did a physical security assessment at their headquarters, and then they wanted me to drive out to the middle of nowhere to test his little office. And so
Wait, is his office like at his house, or this is a standalone building?
It was a standalone building. Yeah.
And it's like shared space or just him?
It was like in a business park in a multi-tenant kind of building, but he had like a suite in there. So I was only allowed to test the suite. And so the scope was pretty limited. So they wanted to see if I could gain access to areas I shouldn't be. So like a file room, for example. And then the other one was to see if I get employees to plug in the USB. So those were the two main objectives. So kind of on the simpler side. And so when I get there were two older ladies. And when I say older, I mean late 70s, working the front desk area. And, I explained I was there from corporate and I was doing a review. And they were so sweet. And they were so helpful. And it just made me feel like such a bad person, because like they were asking me, how the drive was, did I need anything to drink? Like they were at the point where like they were going to go home and make me lunch and bring it back to me because that's just who they were. They were just really sweet older ladies. And so I remember I got to the point where, they let me back really fast. And I was actually, I said I needed to do something on my computer. So I was sitting at my computer desk in front of like this like file room. So I had access to tons of stuff. So, when they weren't there, I was taking pictures of stuff, and documenting as much as I could. And then I sat down at my computer for a second, and she comes back in and she brought me, she had brought her own lunch, but instead of like going and eating or whatever, she brought me half of her lunch. I was just like, this is not right. Like I'm sitting here like with all this sensitive information around me, and she's bringing me lunch. I felt horrible. And then before I left, like my last goal is to get them to plug in USB. I'm just like, I really don't want to do this. Like, oh, my heart broke. But I was able. But yeah, but I asked if they would print. So this is kind of my go-to. If I asked them to open up a file for me, I said, "Will you print off directions for me? Because my GPS is horrible," and that works so often. So they opened it up and
did they go to MapQuest?
Yeah, MapQuest.
I'm gauging their age.
Yeah, no, for sure. And but pretty much, like, after everything wrapped up, I met all my goals, documented everything. And as I was driving back, my point of contact called me. He's like, "Oh, I didn't know his mom was going to be in the office that day." So it was like the guy's mom who was just hanging out in the office, which was just, it made me feel really bad. Like, I felt really, really bad.
I was wearing this delivery driver jacket that has some other name on it. I don't remember whatever name. And one of my neighbors is like, "Is that your name?" Like they've been calling me the wrong name. And I'm like, "No, but sometimes I have to be somebody else."
Yep.
For other reasons. And then she was like, "I only have to be myself and I do not lie to people." And wow. I was like, "Am I one of the baddies?" Like what? I felt a little bad. I'm like, "But I have permission to lie to them." And she's like,
"Yeah,
no."
Oh,
you don't. And I'm like,
she wasn't buying it.
As far as she's concerned, I tipped her BS meter.
Yeah.
That is not a real thing. You're never allowed to do that. Just be honest.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay.
I think it was a couple months ago. I was wearing a whatever state university, I don't even know, hat, because when I was doing a physical in that state, I was just doing recon and it was really hot. So for whatever reason, I bought the closest hat I could find. And but I wear that hat every once in a while. I went through like a Starbucks drive-through and the barista's like, "Oh, did you go to that school?" I'm like, "Oh no, I was just wearing this to blend in." And she's like, "Okay, cool."
I needed some camouflage.
Yeah.
And I need a student discount too.
Yeah, true.
What's the most sinister phishing subject line you've ever used?
Oh, I think ones that relate to a change of PTO. Like, it doesn't sound bad, but when you like mess with people's like PTO, people get furious.
Right.
So I think that's the one that gets like definitely the most. It gets HR pissed at me for sure. Like, HR hates every HR. They all hate me.
That sounds familiar. I did one that I called it confidential staff layoffs.
Ooh, yeah.
And I BCC'd the people I was phishing, and I sent it to the secretary from the CEO. And our report back was hacking without regard. You have crossed the line.
Man.
It yielded really good results, but I was never allowed to use that one again because it was too effective. And apparently, you don't mess with people because everybody thought they accidentally got it, right?
Yeah.
And I did have a PDF there, and it just had I think it was like an embedded exe, and it was corrupt or whatever. Like, it didn't actually like show them anything.
Right.
But they thought now there's like a round of staff layoffs, and people lost their minds.
I use that file name for USB files when I do USB drops. So I'll do like Q4 layoff list, or I'll put like a competitor name merger. Those ones are really good too.
Have you ever got a hacking without regard rebuttal?
No, you win that one. That's a good one.
I don't think it's
need a shirt.
We got called into a conference call, and it was not good.
I think it's funny.
Engagement ended. Like, done. Yeah. Dunzo. I'm like, it was in scope.
Yeah.
No, dunzo. Any Corona coaster projects you're working on in this maybe free time or lack of free time?
Oh, no, I should be. Not really.
I see you got a brick wall built, so.
Yeah, there's that.
Usually I do show and tell. I try to see what's going on in your background.
I know, I got like.
But I got nothing. I can't. What could? There's no show and tell. I can enumerate out of your
I'm debating
background.
if I want to show.
Do it.
If I want to show, it's a mess though. I'm trying to think if there's anything like
grab something off the desk for show and tell. I don't know, something. You don't have to. I'm not trying to peer pressure you.
Now I'm trying to find something good, and everything's like, this is stupid. You want to see a candle? You want to see a sewing machine? That's what I should be doing. I have a sewing. All right, so it's a sewing machine corner that's just like sitting there. Poor thing.
Your embroidery machine.
Yeah. And then
make it new ISP polos.
Yeah, I should be doing that. That's a good thing. But I'm on PTO, so I'm gonna sleep a lot.
Take care of your mental health. This stuff's a mess. Part of me is like, I get really productive, and then I'll stay up till 5 a.m, and then I'm a wreck the rest of the week because it's just I'm like that crazy.
Too. Like, I'll get like really hell bent on something that I have to do, and that's all I'll focus on, and then it's like I don't care about anything else now. Like, I'm done.
Well, I appreciate making time for us. It's always a pleasure to chat with you. Hopefully we can see you in soon shortly.
Yes.
Anything else you want to add, chat about, open floor, book you're selling?
Oh, man. I don't know. Now that you put me on the spot, I'm going to miss seeing everyone at SAINTCON. Like, it's one of my favorite conferences. And I always tell people like who are, trying to find conferences to go to, it's one of my absolute favorite ones. It's like the perfect amount of people where it's not too big and not too small. Like, I love the size of it too. And then the talks, the villages,
and it's
all the
such a spectator sport. You can just go watch people break into rooms all day, or out of handcuffs or zip ties, or yeah, I like it too. It's great.
It is.
All right, well, pleasure. Enjoy your PTO. Thanks for giving us time, and we'll chat soon.
All right, see ya.
Bye.